pathetic. Hoop, Holland, hoop! That is much better. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever LEC semi-final. We are moments away from a best of 5 that will determine which one of these teams will advance to the championship series tomorrow. As you can tell, Romaine's been trying to train this audience. So I have one last question before I introduce to you the teams. Rotterdam, what is your region? That's right, we are EU, and we're about to start the LEC semi-finals. For the first time in 3 years, I present to you Origen! The second best team from the regular season stands amongst the best in Europe here at the Ahoy. In the top lane, Alfari. Roaming the jungle, Cold. In the mid lane, Nuke Duck. Playing bot, Patrick. Supporting, Mithy. Substitute, Speedy. And coach of the spring split, Andre Guijoto! Standing in their way, back to back, defending European champions, Fnatic! In the top lane, Whippo! Roaming the jungle, Broxa! In the mid lane, Nemesis! Playing bot, Reckless! Supporting Hillsang! Substitute X-Matty! And Netherlands, I give to you the 6-star General Yumba! It starts here, the LEC semi-finals between Origen and Fnatic.
Finals at home, and that final was one of the craziest series I've ever watched. When people think about Fnatic and OG going up against each other, they always think about that final, and they want to have that again.
I watched the final back then in 2015, and to be able to experience that myself, hopefully, that will be amazing.
I feel blessed to have the chance again to kind of redeem myself and be able to finish top 3 at the very least, but I don't see why I wouldn't want to beat the shit out of Fnatic.
I was goal is to kickstart the new legacy of Origen here and surpass Fnatic and G2.
They always have a really solid game plan, and they go into the game executing. This is what they're good at.
Here comes the big snowball on the backside, but it's not going to connect. Hylissang ready to flash it in a moment's notice.
When adaptation comes in,
Now Nukeduck is the one running for his life. Cold now in trouble as Reckless is here. Gonna get the kill down. Prox is here as well. Nukeduck cut down.
that's where they crumble.
I feel like Origin has a really interesting aura around them where they are really just an actual team. They're actually a full-on unit, and in an ideal world, that's how every team should look like.
They're playing the way they feel like the game should be played. And I respect that a lot because we got down and dirty, but we ended up winning. And that's the thing. We're committed to dragging people down into the dirt and making it a slaughter.
The Emperor's Divide, and Whimper's gonna get... Oh! Where did that damage come from?
I'm really confident in my team. We've stepped up a lot the past few months, and we've started growing, we've started playing as a unit, and we all have full trust in each other, and I don't really think anyone will be able to stop us at this point.
We're just gonna go in with a winning spirit, and whoever is in front of us, we're coming to kill.
Hello, Rotterdam. I'm Daniel Dracos, joined by Indiana Frostburn Black and Christy Ender Frierson to bring you the series. Now, throughout the series, you guys are going to be able to watch the action through the eyes of the players. For Game 1, Reckless is featured in our POV stream over at twitch.tv/RiotGames2. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we were in Madrid last time. We didn't have English in-house, so if it's okay with you, I'd like to try something. Do we have any Origin fans in the house right now? Pretty good.
All right.
But I'm curious. I've heard that Fnatic has a lot of fans. Fnatic fans, what do you have to say about that? Well, the crowd is alive and well, and you can understand why if you're at home, if you've been following European League of Legends. This is a matchup of epic proportions. This is vengeance for OG coming back and striking back as we get ready for our first game.
And they're going up a very scary Fnatic, a Fnatic roster that has already won 2 best-of-5s here in the playoffs, and a team that it doesn't feel like has been fully tested, fully pushed to the brink here in all of their games. They've just drafted scaling, said, come at us, beat us in the early game, and we haven't seen a team be able to effectively repeat that against them.
Yeah, it's can you break them? Can you attack this Fnatic in the lane phase? Make them show a different strategy, see if they have more left in the tank. Now, I want to clarify, it was Origen that picked blue side here, and if you go back and watch the best of 5s of Fnatic and Origen leading up to this, there's been such a high priority on a first pick jungle pick. So for the likes of Origen, you're looking at the likes of Karthus or Rek'Sai, and there's the Rek'Sai that goes away, and Fnatic also really want those champions. So a lot of shared pool today between both Origen and Fnatic.
And I want to see who's going to end up with a lot of these contested picks. Interesting to see the Sivir ban now coming out. We've heard from so many different coaches, so many different analysts. If it gets to the late game, if Reckless is comfortable, this game feels nigh impossible for Origen, and they're trying to limit those options.
And right next to it as well, the Lissandra that Fnatic often look to get Nemesis early. Now, I expect to see a Karthus banned here, but if Karthus is left open, I 100% think Origen will snap lock that in. It's been such a good pick for both Cold and for Broxah, and that makes me think Fnatic have early game stuff prepared to shut it down.
And speaking of early game, here we go.
Lock it in.
Oh, yes!
Yeah, you get the Karthus, but we get the Sona Taric.
And it was just such a clear bait. You knew what Origen were going to do. But that's a snap twist.
Oh, let's get it on, Rotterdam!
How deep do the mind games go? You have to feel like they were ready. They said someone's going to try this Sona Taric against us, but we have the secret sauce. We've got something ready to go, the Zed and the Blitzcrank.
And we've seen it in the NA LCS. We've also seen it in the ER leagues. The number one way to try to deal with Sona Taric is you must attack them in the lane phase. You need to kill them. You need to have the burst damage. So something like a Blitzcrank that can go all in, that has the ignite, that can have the burst damage. This is exactly what Origen need to try to break this. It just got worse.
Yeah, Origen must shut them down early because Fnatic have so much survivability. You have 2 invulnerables with the Taric and the Kindred. You have the sustain of the Sona as well. And what does Karthus do against that? It's not going to be easy.
Here's the thing, Rotterdam. If Origen don't pop off on this Zed, if he doesn't actually springboard ahead of the clock, trying to 5v5 Sona, Taric, and Kindred. I don't even care what Fnatic's last 2 picks are. Between the Kindred Respite, the heals, and the Athene's Unholy Grail on Sona and Taric, you cannot break that. That is an impossible team to 5v5.
And just thinking about this pick from Nukeduck, he doesn't know what's going mid lane. He's just throwing it down the gauntlet here for Nemesis. We've talked about it. Nukeduck is the rookie killer. While Nemesis is coming in, he sees what his counter matchup is going to be. And without the Lissandra on the table, I'm wondering what he takes against it to try and contest.
And both of these first section of picks from each of these teams, both 3 picks on each side, are such a statement for how these teams want to approach this series and this first draft. And now we have to see how they ran it out, what else they want to bring to the table to make this perfect draft in game 1. Aatrox is just immediately going to get locked in. Very comfortable blind pick for Bwipo here.
Bwipo talks about this all the time on euphoria, how his go-to blind pick is something like that Aatrox. We've seen him absolutely pop off on the champion. So now, Magnifying Glass on Alphari, this is what he kind of failed to execute on against G2 in that 0-3 best of 5. He needs to now make a statement. I have the counter pick, I have the information, it's time to throw down the gauntlet.
Yeah, well, a criticism of Origen when they played G2 was they were maybe putting too many resources up into the top lane. Well, this game, when you have a Blitzcrank down bottom, you absolutely believe they will be focusing Reckless and Hylissang. And that feels like it's the best way to beat Fnatic. Shut down Reckless before he can carry lanes.
And now we look at it, the cannon locked in for Alphari. Comfort picks in so many of these lanes. The bars as well for Patrick to try and secure that lane priority. But what will the final pick be? And it is the Sion.
So flexing that Aatrox there, unless Nemesis holds Sion.
No, I'm thinking Sion could actually go mid up against the Zed. I mean, how do you kill that guy? He just stacks armor. It becomes very tough to deal with, actually.
And there is one of the advantages of having Sion in the mid lane versus the top lane is his access then through the river to either side lane, using that ultimate so he can make those ganks happen and try to follow Nukeduck as he gets unlocked on this Zed.
Exactly, and when you think about it, we say shut down the Sona Taric early. Well, look for plays pre-level 6 around that bottom lane. Look for dives potentially, or utilize this Blitzcrank. If Sion can just counter with a quick roam or the teleport as well, you can actually match in numbers and stop that from happening.
I love how you talk about the level 6 dive potential. Varus, his ability to get priority on a wave instantaneously, to have that shoved in. If you can get Taric and Sona under their tower, if you can unlock Nukeduck at level 6 plus a Karthus ultimate, that's exactly the type of springboard early gameplay that Origen are looking for to put themselves in a winning position with this type of comp.
Yeah, and also think about the power of the Blitzcrank silence on the ultimate against a Sona and the Taric. Taric's ultimate is already delayed. If you can silence him before he brings it down, or stop Sona from self-peeling with the crescendo, stop her from healing up underneath the tower, you can get a lot of work done against it.
Absolutely can, and already just here in game 1, we're seeing 2 incredibly explosive drafts. Nukeduck's Zed versus the Sona Taric bot lane. 9-7, or 9-6 rather, just continues to develop. And I cannot wait to see how these 2 teams clash on the Rift. Game 1, critical. We heard it from Xpeke. The person who wins here, very likely to get that momentum in the series and potentially take it all home. Are we ready, Rotterdam? Are you ready for game 1? It is time. Fnatic versus Origen.
The crowd is ready, I am ready, and already I'm just tracking what do these teams do at level 1. We know Fnatic set up so many smart plays, but this is looking like something straight out of solo queue. There's a Blitzcrank on the enemy team, just 5 stack in the bush and wait for them to come to you.
Moving in though, a little bit of vision placed down. That ward will get cleared. A bit of extra experience, I believe, going over to Alphari. 5 stack coming in for Fnatic, but taking some poke damage from Cold. Mithy looking for
he got one.
He's gonna grab. Ooh, Nemesis not quite the target you want to grab. That's the 3-man knockup. This could turn massively. The Sion zombie is going to be huge here. Mithy running for his life now. OG on the back end of a bad trade, but they will grab the kill, and that's going to turn things in their favor.
So the key thing that I want to highlight after it was all said and done is that we had 2 critical flashes burned here. You had Haley, who flashed forward to try to make sure that Fnatic got something in return. It didn't turn on the scoreboard, but Patrick with a delayed flash and cleanse.
Yeah, you talk about critical flashes. Origen lost flashes on every single member outside of Nukeduck, so it definitely leaves room to have an explosive early game. The next 5 minutes are going to be critical, and you don't really think of Kindred or perhaps the Karthus as being super gank-heavy junglers, but with setup like a Blitzcrank or a Taric, you absolutely can.
That's the thing for me. It's now Broxa on this Kindred. He knows that there's not a lot of access to the flash summoner against his opponent, but Kindred really needs to sit time in that jungle. She's trying to stack up, get that extra auto attack range, wants to farm up her camps, so she now needs to weigh, is it worth it going for the gank here, trying to punish the lack of these summoner spells, or do I need to prioritize myself and get ahead to make this comp work?
And Brox is a jungler, of course, so unpredictable. Will he play for himself? Will he sacrifice his camps to try to play for his team? Now moving into the enemy jungle to look to contest.
Yeah, and he actually avoided the vision. So this is very very good scouting by Fnatic to know where the wards are. Now, of course, he will be seen on this top crab, and he gets unlucky with the RNG. The first mark will be on the bottom side of the jungle, so Cold should know that Broxa is here and be able to take that one away.
And while we do have a minute to kind of focus in on the Sona Taric, again, it's been played globally, so a lot of regions have gotten their hands on this. One of the issues with Sona Taric, especially when Taric doesn't have access to the flash, is that Taric is a melee champion that needs to walk up onto the minion wave to help contest and fight for priority there. And when you have a Varus, he's never going to get it. But it means that they're going to lose complete control over the bottom side of the map because Blitzcrank and Patrick should always have priority there, and that opens up so much space for Cold.
And really, if you are Reckless playing the Sona in this lane, what you're looking for is the full upgrade on your Spell Thief, so then you can eventually farm as Mithy hits level 2, gets a good hook, and this is what we will continue to see in the bottom lane, is these aggressive trades. But really, again, we're watching Reckless. He can't actually farm until he gets the upgrade, because that won't stack on the gold return when he does proc that Spell Thief's Edge. So it will be Hylissang taking the CS for now until the transform is complete.
And you know, while we were talking about on the analyst desk that Reckless has a smaller champion pool than, say, other ADCs, so it probably feels like the viewers, you weren't expecting the likes of a Sona Taric.
Oh, another hook. Mithy absolutely just sniping these out.
But I do need to reveal that we did peek in on Reckless and Hilly's solo queue, and he has certainly been spamming the Sona. So if we found it, Origen certainly found it and had the Blitzcrank prepared today.
And right now things look good. Very hard to force this duo out of lane. There's just so much sustain, but repeated hooks connecting is good news for this team overall. But Nukeduck suffering in this 1v1 matchup. Broxa is here and ready to punish. There's not going to be a shadow available quite yet. Nukeduck has already used it. Are they going to commit fully to die? The flash towards Nemesis, forcing the flash out from Nukeduck. In return, taking the tower shot, but a good exchange overall.
You can see early in the lane how Sion does actually have the ability to sort of bully out the Zed a little bit. Of course, he does have the jungle attention of Broxa, but this is what you expect because the Karthus jungle needs a little time to scale, and even though Kindred's not super strong early on, she does have the ability to proc red buff from range and look for some plays with lanes that do have CC.
And this is interesting because we wanted to see what kind of champions Nukeduck was going to play in this best of 5. When we saw their matchup versus G2, it felt like he was utility, but now it feels like OG are shifting the focus to more of this damage, more of this split push style for Nukeduck overall.
The key word for me there is split push. Nukeduck is a phenomenal Zoe player, but I don't like Zoe for a team like Origen because it means that Nukeduck has to be parked in that mid lane. They are actually really successful alongside G2 at playing that 1-3-1, but it's utilizing the experience of someone like Nukeduck to recognize when to push waves.
Now we see the gank coming in, however. Cold laying down the wall, but the turn. Classic TP's bot lane coming in from Fnatic. Nemesis ready to turn this play. Hylissang is going to give up his life in the exchange, though the knockup now comes in. Will they make it the 1-for-1? Mithy on the retreat. They are going to make it out. Fnatic, that TP not earning them anything. Cold now looking for the follow-up.
Yeah, Cold still getting the slow. He has the red buff if he wants to go for more, but it will just be the chunk, and ultimately it's a teleport wasted here by Nemesis. He loses so much in the mid lane because with that barrier from the mana shield on the Blitzcrank, he was able to survive, and Nukeduck gets massively rewarded for it.
But it's the difference between a Sion losing a big wave like that versus the Zed getting it. You know, it's not going to hurt so much on Sion. He is a fairly low econ champion and being successful, which it means so much more for Zed to get that early plate and to get any sort of advantage that he can.
So checking this out one more time in the bottom lane. Again, no flashes on these supports, and Mithy just walks up towards Hylissang. We're going to have to put that on pause because Brox is getting invaded by a level 4 Karthus.
And man, Cold, I feel like already looking quite comfortable in the series, getting that first blood just to start this game off. Now an assist as well. Exactly the kind of start that he would want heading into this series. And when you already start with a 400 gold advantage, it makes it much easier to play this kind of aggressive style.
I do think it's worth checking out what the gold differences are between these teams because overall, it's 2,000 in favor of Origen. And yes, there are some assists here for the Varus, but notice, bottom lane, relatively close. It's 300 here for Patrick, thanks to those assists, whereas top lane, 600 here for the Kennen with a 20 CS advantage. Mid lane as well, 400. So the difference is not because the Sona isn't CSing, it's actually the solo lanes where Origen are making up a lot of ground.
And it's so important for Alphari to get a lead here because if they want to contest Fnatic in a 5v5, they need to have their Kennen up and ready to go for these big team fights. You know, the nice thing about Kennen, and especially Alphari on this pick, is that he can play the 1-3-1. He can unlock a 1-4 or a 5v5 style, but it only works if he's going to make an impact in these fights.
And for me, it's so critical that OG have made it through the very early stages of the game with a lead, with an advantage, because very often we see Fnatic just take over, whether it's a level 1 play or a level 2 gank. We haven't seen any of that come to fruition for their side. Now OG Gonna take a very aggressive Ocean Drake here. Cold almost dropping down to this, but the whole team is here using that pressure bot lane to secure a big objective early on.
Yeah, it's just very smart play at the start of the game from Origen. They know they can bully the Sona Taric, and it almost feels like they saw it coming because they snap lock in this Karthus, and they have immediate answers, right? The Blitzcrank is obviously something they prepared for this specific matchup, and they said, hey, we can blind the Zed as well to try and snipe out this Sona within teamfights before the Taric ult can come down and save her. So I already like what we're seeing here from Origen, and it is very different from the team that went 0-3 against G2 last week.
And now we're about to have that cresting over of that level 6 mark. It's Cold right now, sitting at level 5, but Nukeduck has access to his ultimate. The TPs will be up fairly soon. And again, this was kind of the big window where we wanted Origen to get a lead. This was supposed to be their watershed moment to springboard the composition.
Check this out top lane.
Hold it.
Whippo using the ulti here. It's just going to be forced back, however, Broxah here to force him, help him force out the wave. Could look to extend this, is going to get the resurrection off the turret shot. Well played by Whippo, but ulti burned there for ulti.
I do think it is worth bringing up what Broxah just did right there, because Broxah, as a player, doesn't play for himself. He plays for his lanes, and you can see that it was a good timing play up there to help Whippo push in his wave, whereas there's a blue buff up on the bottom side of the map. He has his Krugs as well, but he sacrificed farming camps for now, slowing down his own clear speed just a little bit so that he could get a safe recall for his top laner. And he does it all the time, whether it's getting those good recalls or looking for potential dives when big waves are building up.
And something else that Whippo does so frequently is he's very willing to trade aggressively, to trade ult for ult. And this is especially crucial against a pick like Kennen, where you see that ult can be a team fight definer, whereas yes, Aatrox's ult is good, but limiting Alphari, who is such a fantastic Kennen, making sure he can't use that ult aggressively, does feel like it gives Fnatic a small edge. But Frostburn, you've talked about it, we got to hit it again. The level 6 is finally here from Cold, and I got eyes on Nukeduck now. I'm just waiting for the play to happen.
I actually really like the vision that Fnatic have defensively on the bottom side of the river, trying to catch out when Origen decide to get priority of this mid lane and start cheating down towards the bottom lane. Now, they don't need to force the dive. It's also just about exerting that pressure, forcing Fnatic to lose EXP, to lose gold, like you can see Reckless zoned away from the minion creep now, and to continue to throw wrenches in Brox's pathing.
Yeah, and speaking of Brox's pathing, he's going very defensive right now. He actually walked into his jungle for a bit, but as soon as Nukeduck left the map, he just stopped in mid lane, stopped moving entirely because he wasn't sure, was he being invaded? Was there a Cold and a Nukeduck there? So he is playing this very cautiously at the moment because he knows that in both mid and bottom lane right now, he doesn't really have that much pressure from his lanes.
Nukeduck thought he had the perfect lineup on dodging that skill shot. Is not going to dodge out. Just a bit of damage though in the end, but now we see the all-in on bottom side. Explosive amount of damage there from the level 6 Blitzcrank and the level 6 Varus, and no level 6 for the opposite side.
And credit to Patrick and Mithy. They've been manipulating this minion wave and holding it to force Reckless and Hilly to come out from underneath their tower, opening up grabs and plays like that.
Really nicely done here from Origen. They've got 2 turret plates, almost a third. They also got the Ocean Drake a little bit earlier on and are just invading on towards Nemesis, trying to force him out. That's the ulti.
Well-timed Deathmark to catch him with the Blast Clone, now running for his life. Will it be enough damage? Unstoppable. Cold gonna commit the Requiem. Then a healing comes out. Has the stopwatch though, denying that first Karthus
yeah,
ult.
Stopwatch just came up for him 10 seconds ago, so a very short window where he would have died had that play just been called shortly before that. Still, though, the game is entirely in Origen's control. It feels so good for them, and it's exactly what they need to do, because we've already mentioned it, Fnatic have the scaling advantage. Even though they went Sona in the bottom lane, Sona scales very well. All the healing, as well as having a marksman in the jungle, will make their team fight still powerful.
But you see that confidence there, the fact that Mithy's rocking up on the creeps, he's throwing out the silence, and he's just throwing punches, seeing what he's gonna get.
And we look back at how this plays out, and they have no reason to be scared because there's no level 6 here, and that's really just all she wrote.
That hook just barely snuck past the minion. I don't think Hylissang thought he was going to get hit by that. He just barely tagged him, and of course Cold is behind him. And if you see where the control wards are in the bottom lane for Origen, there's just no way Fnatic can ever expect a play is coming their way.
And I do want to kind of talk about this idea that we keep talking about Fnatic scaling on this composition. You know, they're not down and out yet. The fact that Origen have everything going their way in the early game, but we actually don't know if Fnatic can actually execute on this style of composition. You need to layer your cooldowns very appropriately. You really needed Broxah to get farther ahead because you have so few damage threats, especially in kind of the mid game with this style of composition. So there's still a lot of questions here for me for Fnatic. I don't think they're out of the woods just because we can say, yeah, but they're team fighting. How are you ever going to kill Kindred, Sona, Taric?
Absolutely true. We do need to see that execution, and we will see a contest now coming in there on the Herald. Cold has to run for his life, and they're backing off. Trying to protect this one, but very difficult to hold that. Mithy flashing forward, trying to get knocked with the silence coming out too! Oh, The hooks are just too clean from Mithy, but Bwipo wants to extend the play. Reckless is on the way in. Deathmark comes down. They're going to find the knock-up on a Nuke Duck. That's the chain CC they need. Now he has to retreat, pulling back. Bwipo still in the midst of everything. Fnatic could look to turn the flight. Mithy now in trouble. It will at least be the exchange here as Nemesis grabs the kill. Hylissang looking to extend the play. That's the dazzle. Stunning. Bwipo coming in as well. We'll have the Umbral dash. Nemesis going to look for the knock-up here shortly. Bwipo, do they want to keep it going? Cosmic Radiance.
Yes, they do.
The tower. Alfari locking them up under the tower, using all of that ulti. They have to be careful as they extend the play. They're out of invulnerability.
Fnatic are not out of it just yet. They're still on the hunt. More members in.
Here comes Nemesis ready to go. They're going to trade tower aggro using the Scion passive. Now going through, trying to find more, but they die. The double dropping for Nuke Duck.
This is a disaster.
This is a bloodbath, and it is all turning in the favor of OG.
3 for 1 for Origen. It's only Reckless that survives. It's a 3-0-1 Nuke Duck that wins out massively. He has the Yomus already, but he's going to go back and start working on the Duskblade.
Just a little bit too greedy there for Fnatic. That was a huge blunder. The fact that they couldn't say, are we committing past the tower? Are we disengaging? It looked like messy comms across the board there.
And it was a 4 versus 5, right? Patrick was just solo pushing down bottom lane, picking up plates.
And I do want to say, it started looking good for Fnatic here. The fact that Reckless cheekily knows exactly where Zed's going to come out of his ultimate, and if you watch this on the replay, he actually tags Nuke Duck with the Sona ultimate immediately out of Deathmark. Boom.
Yeah,
he's always
very
going to land behind you.
Man, and then it's the full channel on the knockup from Nemesis as well. They're actually going to use the Herald immediately towards mid. They pick up 4 plates right there just before they fall and chunk out Nemesis as well. This means they have priority on the Infernal Drake. They can pick that up for free.
And we look at across the board right now, there's just not a lot of damage on the side of Fnatic. Kindred still on 1 item. Bwipo hasn't finished anything. You've got bits and pieces from this Taric Sona bot lane, the Scion as well, working towards, something significant. But you look at Nuke Duck, we've already got double lethality items working towards what appears to be the Knight's Veil and almost level 11 as well with cold power farming. And we've talked about Fnatic late game team fighting being, an out, but at this point it feels like OG just have absolute control of the game.
I kind of want to put a close-up on Patrick's itemization. With Varus, you obviously have the option to go for the lethality, or you can go for the Blade of the Rune King. I really like his choice here, because taking poke versus someone like Sona Taric, when you're competing with those heals as well as the Scion, I think it fits best, again, that they have insurance policy for a 5v5 from Fnatic, that they have a more team-fighting-oriented Varus build.
Exactly, and actually going for the Ginsu's Rageblade next against so many untarget abilities and sustain coming through from Fnatic's side means that you're going to have a lot of time to stack that up, to get the Phantom hit on your Blight stacks as well. So this is certainly the proper build here for Patrick, and Origen with the 7,000 gold lead after taking that bot lane tower, taking 4 plates in the middle lane as well. They are in quite the position now. The question is, can they force? Can they actually finish? Because that's one thing they actually lack a little bit. You have the Varasult, which is an okay engage tool. Blitzcrank with flashes can look for hooks as well, but Kennen isn't going to be able to do it out of the top lane unless he's getting a really sick teleport flank, and that's where Fnatic might be able to stall out the rest of the game and get to a point where they can win the 5v5.
And we're now at a good point where Reckless has that completed support item and can start to get creeps, can start to get a lot more gold under his belt. You see the Lost chapter completed as well, so finally we'll start to see the Sona output a little bit more damage, so if they do find a situation where they can lock Nuke Duck up, where they can stop that Deathmark from being effective, maybe they can kill him too that time around.
I just feel like Fnatic fans are having a horrible flashback of Reckless on Chana, and they're like, no, not Sona.
Back to 80 carries, please. Next game, it's Karma. It's coming back.
No, Ender, don't do that. But we can see, obviously, OG pretty comfortable in this scenario. They have level 11 coming through on a lot of their major carries. Alfari, Nuke Duck, Cold working there as well. And for Fnatic, they have to play very smart, very defensive, and a lot of pressure on them not to mess anything up. Of course, we do have Bwipo using the ultimate. Cold back out here is going to get the revive and move forward, but I feel like it's still just a death sentence. The whole team is now collapsing. Immediately, the ulti comes out. Brock's trying to save him. They're trying to step away. They might just be set up for Alfari to step forward. Karthus ult now coming forward. A lot of damage, but no one's going to die. Hylissang is there with the Bastion and the heal as well.
But the damage has been done. It was making sure that Origen didn't overcommit for that type of fight. They came there for their tower. They're still snowballing up their gold lead, and they have pressure everywhere across this map.
Yeah, they knew if Bwipo was going to stay alive, Fnatic would have to send multiple members up towards the top side. Broxah played it very smartly to be there when the dive was coming through, but it meant that there was no one defending mid lane. So it wasn't just the tower top, it was mid lane as well, which blows the entire map completely open. Now with no towers, it becomes so much easier to walk into the enemy jungle with a sweeper if you are Mithy and look for a Kindred that steps just too far.
And just so incredibly difficult now for Fnatic to do much of anything. Blitzcrank when you're behind is just such a terrifying champion. Good news is Fnatic do have a little bit of vision defending them on the bottom side of the map, but as OG continue to pressure on top side, as Nukeduck is now up there, this is not the point anymore in the game where Nukeduck needs any support to find a solo kill. If you miss position, this Zed will absolutely kill you, and second item very much on the way coming in for Patrick, whereas Reckless he's doing okay in gold income, but really needs to get the full Seraphs to come through.
But this was the moment against G2 that Origen really started to stall out. Their indecisiveness about how they wanted to set up the Baron, how they were going to split up and play around the map. I don't necessarily think they need to immediately turn towards the Baron, but they definitely need to create the safety net for Nukeduck to continue to abuse how far ahead this set is.
And of course, they can't immediately turn. We have 3 minutes till Baron comes up. That's how fast-paced this early game has been. Really, the laning phase felt like it was almost non-existent after that first initial bot lane play.
But it's the fact that this composition doesn't need to rely on Baron to siege because of the nature of Fnatic's comp. If they don't have the Scion, it's hard for them to find the hard engage outside of a Flash Sona ultimate, but so far, because Fnatic is constantly split apart, they haven't even gotten to use their 5v5 or stack all of these ultimates. Whereas Fnatic's composition, I think, is much more reliant on Baron if they want to siege towers.
And right now we are seeing a bit of that 1-3-1 that we talked about with Origen, putting Nukeduck into the bottom lane. I think that Nukeduck has a much better time matching up against the Aatrox than he does against the Scion, because you can look for quick bursts, you're in and out, that means Aatrox can't actually hit you with a lot of Qs, whereas against a Scion, he's pretty beefy, he can clear away waves relatively easily, so you will see Bwipo just sitting under his tower for the time being, and the rest of Origen potentially looking for a play, but it's a good ward to stop the potential dive.
Now we look for a little bit more here. Potentially on the bottom side as Hylissang and Nemesis are just waiting in that fog of war, looking for an opportunity, hoping that someone gets over-aggressive and dies. That's a very tasty level 9 Sona, OG are saying themselves, but an even more tasty Taric. Oh, Hylissang stepped over the wall, does manage to flash to safety. So clutch in the exchange. Here comes the arrow. Not quite enough, just a sliver of health. Bwipo leaps forward to defend his teammates.
That was so well played there by Mithy, just chaining the CC.
Oh!
What? Bwipo just died. They have so many ults to keep him alive, but they don't use it. The tower's gonna fall as well. And Mithy always behind this wall, waiting for Fnatic to make a huge blunder.
And it's because they have that momentum that they're already able to get these deep wards up to open up positions like this. And Nukeduck right on time. I prepared this wave earlier. Nice rotation from Origen, immediately from mid, now to bottom.
Where was this Origen roster last week? It looks completely different. The early game, they came in with a beautiful plan. This is what we expected during the regular season from this team, and it is just perfect macro play to take down 5 turrets before Baron even spawns.
I mean, that said, Fnatic's composition doesn't have a lot of the tools that you're used to seeing from a Fnatic. You're used to seeing the likes of the Skarners, the Jarvans, these other big hard engage tools, and you're used to seeing them in hands of someone not like Reckless. You know, it's a very different playstyle to be on an ADC Sona or a marksman Sona that you need to start a fight here, because they're basically looking for Nemesis ult or Sona ult.
And we look back at this and it's just Bwipo not ready for the sheer amount of damage. We talked about not having the best immediate hard engage, but when you're trapped under a tower, it's much easier to land those hooks, to land those Varus ultimates, and we look at the difference in bot lane. The Sona, this pick that we've seen be so incredibly powerful, nearly 4K gold behind.
The Sona is not working up against this composition. Origen have just been playing it beautifully, and you can see, you asked the question in hindsight, well, obviously this doesn't work, but it has been. In other regions, it has been wildly successful with teams that are not able to close games very quickly. And that's what makes me so surprised, because usually you think about Origen that takes the game slower. They choke you out rather than just blasting you in just a single team fight.
I love that read, Ender. It's this idea, again, every coach that we talked to said that Origen was the slowest of the 3 teams left in the LEC playoffs. And this feels like Fnatic making a bet, because it felt so telegraphed that everyone knew who was going to pick. If we leave the Karthus open, it's going to be snap grab, but that's fine because we can counter the Karthus ult with the Sona Taric. But ultimately, the bet didn't pay off. You know, Origen is playing much faster, much more decisive around this map.
Yeah, and you think about this Fnatic team that says, we're going to draft scaling until you can prove to us that you can beat us early on. Well, Origen have made a statement here in Game 1, and we're going to have to wait and see how the rest of this transpires, but I don't think we're going to be seeing the same thing from Fnatic as we move onward in this series.
And the question is, how much deeper does the Fnatic playbook go after this game turns against them? Do they stick, you know, with the Sona Taric? Do they ban the Zed away? Do they try to run this draft back just with a few different modifiers, or do they have more in the tank, more strategies that we have yet to see? Because right now for OG, this is a huge confidence win if they can get a win on Nukeduck's Zed on a dominant bot lane for Patrick up against a player like Reckless, that's absolutely massive.
I mean, the fact that they got to attack in every single lane, that they got a possible counter pick of getting Alfari on the cannon, that they had immediately into the Zed, the confidence there, and that Patrick and Mithy weren't on Tahm Kench duty. You know, this wasn't the Tahm Kench Ashe. This was an aggressive, forward-oriented Origen bot lane, and that was completely gone against G2.
Alfari waiting off of the flank, unstoppable now for the side of the
Teleport
side from Patrick. Now moving in for a little bit more. Bwipo wants to find his way into the back line, has the ultimate ticking. Maybe the Sonatara can take over the team fight, but the Sion is already gone. Patrick now locked up and just throwing out the auto attacks fully stacked here. The Phantom hits are going to do so much damage if he gets the time. Throwing out the arrow, but no kill is going to come through in the end.
Fnatic trying to force there because they saw Nukeduck had reset. He wasn't with the rest of the team, and Cold was also a little bit low on mana. Still, they could not get anything done because their engage is terrible. It's a Sion charging forward. That's just not enough to catch out Origen.
The fact when it's Bwipo looking for the flank on Aatrox as your primary engage, you didn't execute on what you needed to.
Difficult position, most certainly for Fnatic to find themselves in. Of course, just a massive gold lead in favor of OG. 5 towers to 1, the 3 Drakes backing them up as well. 8-2 the kill score, but the gold just nearly 10K, only 22 minutes into the game. OG, we talked about them. In the G2 series, hesitating to take Baron, but with a lead like this, I feel like they just take it right now.
Yeah, you have Karthus and you have Blade of the Ruin King plus Ginsu's Patrick on the Varus at the moment. I can't even remember the last time Fnatic approached the river. It's been a long time with how dominant Origen have been. Mithy will walk on. He will be spotted here on this ward that Bwipo used to teleport, but again, it's just one hook that could end the game for Fnatic.
Biding their time, waiting, still with enough confidence to step forward here, but waiting for Hylissang to step into the front. This could be a massive fight coming out here. Moving up, they don't have vision into the bush. Mithy stepping forward, look for the hook. Nice sidestep comes in from Hylissang, but over the wall, Alfari could look for the fight. Not going to commit the flash, though, despite 4 members grouping up. Does not want to risk the Sonatara counter-engage.
It's the patience of knowing that they're playing around the objective and playing the pressure game. They don't need to force the fight and possibly fumble the game here. You can have Nukeduck cheat towards mid or towards the bottom lane, and again, continue to stretch out Fnatic. Don't allow them to group up and use the 5v5.
And a stunningly clean game thus far from OG. Living up to a lot of fans' expectations. Baron has been started up, 8K and dropping. Broxa can move to contest, but his route will be spotted as he wants to move forward.
They have no blue trinkets up here for Fnatic. Origen know the timers, and they know Fnatic must walk in. It's got to be getting low. It's down.
Baron is going to be massive. Cold does manage to take it. Nukeduck not going to commit anything else. They have the Baron now, and the victory in their eyes. OG, 11K gold lead, 24 minutes into the game.
Origen now can just play all 3 lanes. Alfari bot lane, Nukeduck top lane, and laugh in the face of Fnatic as they try to force a hard engage, because it is not easy to clear away these Baron buffed minions here with Fnatic's team comp. They will be forced to fight.
I mean, it feels BM to say GG next, and Fnatic to start, you know, kind of problem solving. How do we fix this? What are we going to go back towards the board? What side are we going to select?
They were problem solving from minute 1.
Things were difficult in the laning phase. The Sonataric exploited the wave, pulled away from them. Hylissang, every time he stepped forward, Mithy was there with the hook, and not a matchup they expected to be losing. Wanting a lot more out of this bot lane, but not able to find it. We know that changes will have to come in for Fnatic in Game 2. If they lose this game, it will take a miracle for them to come back.
So the goal here right now is they need to, or Fnatic need to defensively clear out their jungle. It's what you can see. They're kind of sitting together, turtling a little bit. At least clear out some pathways so they can get to reliable and safe farm. And again, it's the stall game. It's the turtle game. It's sit underneath your tower. Hopefully Origen mess up if they try to look for a dive, get overzealous, and you can punish them with things like the Sion passive and like the CC and crowd control that you have between Sona and Taric.
Yeah, I think their best bet is going to be to force mid. No flash on
We're
Patrick.
going to run at him.
Mid lane.
He has no flash.
Knockup going to come through. He burned it earlier. That's the shutdown on the Patrick. Mithy could be next on the menus, but Punez managed to step forward, but they will back off on the side of OG. Nukeduck, meanwhile, on the top side is looking for that inhibitor. Fnatic now rushing to get something done, but Alfari is on the bottom side. They're being pushed and pulled across the map.
Yeah, as long as Origen just sit next to their minions, they can chunk out these towers. Kennen Auto's gonna do a lot here with the attack speed boost, and Fnatic, they still want to force, but they used all of their spells. It no longer is feasible for them to continue the chase.
I really like the lane assignments here, though, of making sure that it's Sion that's matching up across from the Zed, because it means that Nukeduck can't just ignore him, and he can't just kill him. It effectively stalls out and saves this tower on the top side. Very well read by Fnatic.
Fnatic also had to force in the mid lane, because if you try to force on one of the split pushers, you're guaranteed to lose an inhibitor as the 3 members in mid push out. But they knew Patrick didn't have the flash. It was a very brief window that they punished, and now have been able to cut off crucial minutes of this Baron buff timer.
This was huge. I thought Fnatic were dead in the water, but to find a small error like that from one of the less experienced members on Origen, didn't have the flash, didn't respect the Scion, and was way too far forward. Excellent catch.
And let's be clear, Fnatic are not into this just yet. It's still a 10,000 gold lead here for Origen, but what they've effectively done is stalled out the end of the game from being first Baron buff to potentially second, unless Origen can find a fight where they completely wipe Fnatic.
But that's more time. You look at Reckless, his items look completely different than the first time that Baron went around. This composition is actually going to start to work, and hopefully we can see how invulnerable Kindred, Sona, and Taric can be in these 5v5s.
But OG, with the last of this Baron buff, are looking to force down the tower. They want to get something here. Breaking inhibitor will be huge, but the ult is coming in once again. That's going to be the two-man ult. A massive combo coming in. Taric as well. They're going to be invulnerable. OG now have to peel back. They have to be smart about how they use this. Alphari trying to peel. No one has gone down yet. Nuke now ready to step forward. Fnatic just do not have the stats. Out comes Cold's ultimate, but in comes the Kindred to save the day. There's too much invulnerability, but the pressure from OG, the triple Ocean Drakes, keeping them healthy, allows them to push in here.
And Fnatic are just way too low. This inhibitor will fall. Origen have broken into the base with the last seconds of the Baron buff. They're able to find their mark.
Very well played around the cooldowns, however, but like you said, it was the fact that Origen didn't come there to kill Fnatic. They came there to empty out the base and to secure and open up the potential of the next Baron.
And Mithy played that fight so well. He actually hooked, I believe, Whippo out, or Nemesis rather, outside of the Taric ult coming down. They're not done just yet. Baron looks like it's expired, but their push hasn't.
Trying to siege again. They know the major cooldowns are gone. All the vulnerability taken off the menu, and now Nemesis is going to get deleted. Patrick taking down one kill. They have to respect the zombie Scion. They will back off. Nemesis still can continue to push, though. They are unconcerned with Fnatic. They know they just have the gold advantage, the item advantage. There is nothing for Fnatic to do in this fight.
Yeah, Origen have another wave. It's pushing up. We're 8 minutes into the game. Origen now have 2 inhibitors. Are they looking to end here? They're still going.
X-Flash coming forward for Mithy, gonna fish for the hook, looking for a little bit more. Alphari going down a ton of damage. The Kindred immediately taken out. OG on the cusp of ending game 1 here. Fnatic, they wanted to stall, but they may not get the opportunity. Whippo focusing on clearing the wave, but another one is moving in topside with the super minions.
This is a completely different Origen. Old Origen last week would have waited for the second Baron. This one is all fire ahead.
Pushing in though, Whippo getting a lot of damage down. Resurrection now coming in as well. Nuke Duck gonna move forward, immediately gonna try to delete that Reckless. Now coming out, flashes back to safety in the fountain. They want to get something, they're so desperate, but OG have set their sights on the towers. Now trying to pull back. Patrick doing so much damage onto Whippo. They are gonna get the 1 kill back, but the knockup is there. Reckless waiting in the backside, knowing he can't step forward, knowing that OG are saving cooldowns just to finish him off.
Wait a second.
But Cold is gone. Out comes the ultimate from the Karthus. Not gonna find a single kill, but Nuke Duck has his eyes set on the Nexus. Mithy focusing it down. I don't know if they have enough time here. Reckless now stepping forward. OG may have overstayed their welcome in the Fnatic
That's a big
base.
slow. They're gonna get
down.
him.
Nuke Duck taken out, the shutdown. Mithy taken out as well. Fnatic keep their hopes alive in game 1.
Fnatic have no Nexus towers left, but the Nexus itself is still alive. Minions continue to flood into the base, but hey, they live to fight another day.
That was a big heads-up play there from Origen. Like I said, last week Origen would not have gone for a play like that, but they waited out the risk versus the reward. Yes, Baron is about to spawn. Yes, the death timers are there, but there's no way that Fnatic can even burn the Baron because they don't have the damage, but can leave their base.
Now we have to find out where it goes wrong here for Origen. They get the pull in towards Whippo, but he does survive. And remember, there are still towers under the base. Nuke Duck dodges the crescendo, but is unable to kill Reckless on the back. Reckless sustains and keeps the rest of his team alive, while Nemesis jumps forward, gets some damage down, and they just kite this out beautifully. I mean, it's really well done. And Reckless, look at the damage. That's just insane.
It just always feels so bad. Yeah, he plays this fight correctly. You get to see how obnoxious this composition can be. But, you know, this isn't what you want Reckless to be doing. You don't want him kiting back, being that support. You want him in the front lines, using his front line, using that 5v5 style, and pushing forward.
At the end here, we finally see one good fight for this team composition, but it feels like it's already so close to the end.
Reckless got 10 stacks on his Dark Seal in that fight. He's turned it into a Mejai's. He knows that if they lose a fight, the game is over. Get the Mejai's. If you can win a fight, go to 25 stacks. It doesn't matter if you're down 4,000 gold compared to Patrick. You can pop up.
It still just feels dirty to see Reckless on a champion like Sona instead of a traditional ADC.
Now we see the Baron set to fall. This could be Fnatic's death sentence, the final nail in the coffin here in game 1. They're set up to push a single exposed inhibitor, and the Nexus stand in front of them.
So we're going to see if Origen take another run at this and try to redo the 5v5, maybe layer their cooldowns a bit differently, look at different target selection. Don't tank as many towers that don't exist now, or if they're going to play the smother game. If they're going to feed in through all 3 lanes and just try to bleed Fnatic out.
They're not playing the smother game. Infernal Drake just spawned. They say, we don't care. We have 3 minutes to work with the Baron buff. You have 1 inhibitor and you have 1 Nexus. We only have to kill the Nexus. We are going to move these minions in towards your base and put Fnatic in an impossible position. Again, you don't necessarily even have to take the fight if you just smack the Nexus a couple of times.
And eyes on these major cooldowns. The Taric ultimate, the Kindred ultimate are going to be crucial, but on the opposite side, you have to look at Nuke Duck and the Zed's Death Mark, as well as the Requiem, which will be up shortly for Cold. And it's going to come down to a single fight. Fnatic doing what they can to clear out these waves. Bwipo trying to zone Nuke Duck off of that remaining inhibitor. But it feels like it's going to be just too much pressure for Fnatic to deal with. There's too many minions. There's too many strong members.
Here we go.
Now stepping forward onto Patrick. Patrick, of course, the flash available or not quite available. They're going to
Reckless!
look for a little bit more.
He's
Reckless
alive.
onto the backside. His managed to live. Kindred ultimate now coming out, but Nuke Duck is just going to step forward. They set their eyes on the Nexus. Fnatic do not have the damage to kill every remaining member of OG. If they just focus, if they just burn down the Nexus, and they are going to get it. OG make a statement in game 1.
Fnatic came in with the Sonataric bot lane, but Origen, they did their homework. They instantly snap lock Zed and Blitzcrank, and they obliterate Fnatic in game 1.
It felt like so many mind games. We knew that Karthus was going to be the priority pick between both these teams on blue side. Origen had it clearly planned out. They picked blue side, they picked the priority, and they picked the snap counter.
I'll be honest, I had no faith in Origen coming into this series. Against G2, they looked like a shell of their former selves. They looked weak, but that was not the case in this match. It was a different idea, it was a different style. They popped off early, and they closed in clean and true Origen fashion.
And I want to give huge credit to Mithy in particular on that Blitzcrank, hitting grab after grab, being so aggressive with getting that deep vision and opening up these plays, not only in the information on giving it to Nuke Duck in the side lane, but also, hey, you want a free kill? I just snag someone over a wall.
Yeah, snag people over the wall, pull them out of Taric ults, Kindred ults, silence them so they can't use those critical defensive spells. That was the defining pick of game 1.
And now just a ton of confidence coming in from this team. I think good to see the development here. But to break down how Origen took the lead, let's check in with the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, guys. I've also brought in some firepower to analyze this game. Febiven from Misfits, Jankos from G2 Esports, who's playing tomorrow. Yeah, first, welcome. Febiven, of course, I gotta say, it's awesome to welcome you here in the Ahoy. Does it feel nice to be home?
Yeah, it does actually, but it really sucks to not play here.
Absolutely.
But it's still really nice to be here, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. We're happy to have you. Jankos, welcome as well. I know you're not going to give away too many secrets, but I hope you can share a bit or help us analyze what happened here. First question for the desk. Where the hell is Fnatic?
Ooh. I mean, honestly, I think Fnatic played their game. And I also believe that Reckless, I think, played 20 or 30 Sona games just before the final, like over the last couple of days. So I think Fnatic played what they wanted to play. It's just Origen really showed up.
Yeah, so that was good preparation then from the side of Origen.
Like, I want to speak about the Sonataric lane, because this is not something we've seen a lot in Europe. And I think Sonataric can be abused, and it was exposed for 3 reasons. Origen drafted a split push composition. This is a composition that doesn't want to team fight, they all just want to play on side. They drafted the Blitzcrank. This lane, Sonataric can't really control where the wave is, so Taric needs to kind of farm the wave in front of the Blitzcrank, and Blitzcrank could just hook him, and it happened. And then they set up the ganks with the Blitzcrank. So they had all these tools to counter the Sonataric lane, which kind of plays into this idea of Fnatic. They all want to reach this team fight composition situation, 25 minutes into the game, Taric Sona just dominating, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, Febiven, what did you make of both the compositions? You seemed quite surprised in the cast room. You said, what is this? What am I making?
When they looked in Zed and Blitzcrank, I was like, what? I thought it was going to be a troll game, you know, like a casual normal game you play. Like, but I mean, I think OG played really well, actually. Like, I didn't think that they would snowball so well, especially against Fnatic, since they actually looked really good and stable, but they seemed to actually play really bad, at least the first game for now.
I mean, I have to agree, and that was what most surprised me about Origen, is that we criticized them heavily, Amato, also for versus G2 not doing anything when they had the advantage even. This just feels so completely different.
I feel like the big difference here is that Nuke Duck was on a champion that puts him in the driver's seat. No Lissandra, no Zoe, he's on the split push champion, and I think when he's in playing those champions, he knows exactly what to do. He tells his teammates, I need to be here, I want to push here. He knows how to dictate the game, and I think that is a big changer here.
Yeah, Jankos, you played them, of course, last week. Are you surprised that Origen's playing so strong in game 1?
I don't think Origen changed much, actually, from last week. I think they play quite similar. It's just that the draft really did play in their favor. And like Yamato said, the preparation was good. And, they had Karthus, they had Zed, and they just kind of rolled with it, And also Fnatic normally plays around bot lane, but this game they could not. They have Taric Sona, they need to farm, they need to play slow game. Origen didn't let them, they just, kept going for the plays, and it just seems like Origen played really well.
Yeah, and Origen, great preparation. That's something we've praised him for many, many times. Yamato, you love this lane. You even said if you get Taric Sona, you have a free game. So what happened?
So this is usually what we saw, but I think this Blitzcrank pink is just genius. Because as I mentioned before, Sona and Taric, they can't really dictate where the wave position is. In early game, Taric is the one that needs to CS. And when you have a melee champion walking up on the wave against Blitzcrank, it's like just free candy for him.
It is, and they also got kills. Cold was also very active once again. They got 3 kills early. Did you guys think after 3 kills early for OG with this comp, it is over? Or could Fnatic have done something different with their composition to come back?
I mean, if they would be 2 Cloud Drakes maybe, and if they would have played it better, like from the snowballing part, maybe a little bit more safe and give more things up. But as soon as you get the lead, you can get the Herald, you can get mid tower, and then you can just start split pushing. And they had Prio on 3 lanes, so it's really hard to make a comeback, especially with they didn't have that much engage, I felt like.
No, I think I agree.
There was also the dive top. That was a disaster. It was a mess. They used the Taric ult just a tad bit too early, and everyone just kept dying under the towers.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at it once again because it all happened so fast, but it was truly disastrous from the side of Fnatic. I think they also felt the pressure, They had to do something, Yamato.
I feel like when you're playing this composition, you know exactly that the further the game goes, you can actually rely on your scaling, and I felt like they kind of threw it away very, very fast by throwing it into this dive. It's about understanding when you need to give up and waiting for your spikes, which is something that G2, I think, did phenomenally in Game 1 against OG when they were behind, and they just kept trading sides, and then eventually they were in a position to just smack them in the head.
Is this one of the things that we see very often with Fnatic? Guipo, for instance, and Hilly, even if they're behind, if they see a target, they're going to jump on them. Is that working against them here?
I mean, honestly, I don't know what the call was here. It was really disgusting. I think in those situations, you kind of have to keep your head cool in the game. And, even though you're playing comp that dives in, just wait for another 10 minutes, and then you're actually like unstoppable. Because if Sion pops ult mid lane, Varus has to flash every time. And then one time he doesn't have flash, he just dies, and the fight is just lost. So I think Fnatic was really impatient during that Herald play. And, they lost Herald, they lost a couple of kills, and then the game was just out of control.
Was out of control. They now have to forget it. Well, maybe not entirely, because don't make the same mistakes again, of course. Youngbuck said right before, 3-0, no problem. Not true. We can say that in all definity. Froskerin said the same thing. So let's look ahead now. And I want to start with OG, because they played this out perfectly. I want to remember back to the final where they played Fnatic in summer, and they won Game 1 as well, and they were super convincing. Gyotto had a fantastic draft, but after that, they got figured out. So how does OG keep this going? What do you want to see from them?
I mean, probably the same. They played super well. I just think that no matter what Fnatic drafts, if they play like this, they will just lose 3-0. So I think if OG plays like this again, I'm not sure what they have prepared, obviously, but they probably have something. So it just depends who plays better.
Who are you predicting?
After seeing this game, I think OG will win probably 3-1.
Jankos?
Well, I think that OG is kind of easy to figure out. So as long as Fnatic gets their head still in the game and doesn't tilt, and they go into the game with like a 5-5 draft where they don't run it down, top tower or
Just
something.
don't run it down, please.
Yeah, don't run it down, please. And, if you have comp that scales, just scale. I think Fnatic will win the next game.
Yamato?
I feel like Fnatic did the mistakes OG did in your series. I feel like they're trying to draft something where they can't play the usual style, where they play around the bottom lane. They have the Broxtown and the jungler that can be creative. Kindred is like farm, and what else do? You play with the Sion, and I think it was just looking rough from the beginning. I think they need to come back, get a lane they can play around, put Helisang on Braum, and there we go.
Yeah, I'm honestly confused. I get that this Taric Sona lane is rumored to be very good, and we've seen it be very good as well. I don't want to see Reckless on Sona, though. This is the guy who stopped playing when he had to play supports in the bottom lane and give it to someone else. I want to see him on an AD carry, but of course, that's not our job to make. That is a coach's decision. But you going forward, what will you draft for that bottom lane?
I think the bigger question is what do they do about Zed? Because I wasn't really convinced with the Sion. I think that's the first step, because usually they have something that can impact the bottom lane with the TPs. The Sion TP on bottom didn't work out because they had the Taric Sona. So that's the second problem. Give me something with CC, because I think when they're playing the Braum and the Sivir, for example, I think they're pulling off things that usually other teams can't do on very, very weak matchups that scale very, very well. So this is what I love from Fnatic.
Well, a shocker here. OG, fantastic in game one, and Fnatic with their backs against the wall. Origen on their way towards a showdown with G2 as they look to take it to match point when we return.